First up, who knows what they're having for dinner tonight? Hands up. Quite a few people in the room, that's pretty good. And who would like to leave today with a completed meal plan for the rest of the week? Breakfast, lunch, dinner, any snacks? Lots of room. So I might disappoint you because that's not what you're going to walk away with today. But what you hopefully will walk away with is the skills of how to create your own meal plan. Because who will enjoy the chicken and vegetable curry I suggest for tonight's dinner? Hands up. Quite a few hands. What about the turkey minced chili con carne tomorrow night? And the tofu stir fry on Monday night? Bit of a deal breaker, I think. And really what it shows us is that we all like different things. What works for me in my lifestyle, the time I have to prepare food, is going to be different to what works for everyone else in the room. So that's really where today's session has come from, of what's for dinner and how to create your own healthy meal plan or eating plan. And what's the benefit to all of this? Why do we talk about a healthy meal plan and healthy eating? Really what feedback is to me as a dietitian is that healthy eating is hard. I don't know where to start. I kind of know what to do, but I don't always know how to do it. So this is just one of the tips or tricks that we can look at to putting together a healthy eating plan. So when we look at research and evidence, and this is really the only researchy slide I've got for today, but really what we're seeing is that we are eating, as a society, we're eating food prepared outside of the home more often. So this is some research that's come from the Australian Institute of Health and Welfare, and the pink bars represent the weekly expenditure on specific foods and beverages in the 2003-2004 period versus the blue bars, which is 2009-2010. So in this time, we can see that in the orange circle, the meals out and fast foods, we're spending about $21 extra per week on these meal items. And in the green circle, the pink bars are longer, which means back in 2003-2004, we were spending more on whole foods such as meat, fish, seafood, fruit, nuts and vegetables. And there's other evidence that's supportive that food and meals prepared outside of the home tend to be lower in diet quality and associated with a higher body mass index or BMI, compared to the food that prepared inside the home is of a better quality. We tend to eat more appropriate quantity as well, and we have a healthier waistline the more food we eat prepared inside of the home. So this is where meal planning comes in, to help encourage you to eat more food inside of the home. So today what I'll be going through is 3 main steps to how to create your own healthy meal plan. And firstly, we need to have some healthy meals to go into that plan. So building a healthy meal and what that looks like. Then we'll talk about how to create a healthy meal plan, and then a little bit on shopping, okay? So how to build a healthy meal. It's really the basis of a healthy meal plan, okay? Without the healthy meals, we're just going to have a meal plan. So for the moment, I'll just focus mostly on meals that might be more of your savoury options, your lunch and dinners, but you can certainly take some of these messages and apply it to breakfast and snacks as well. But the first thing is include vegetables, okay? Make vegetables the majority of your meal rather than the minority. I think too often they're a bit of an afterthought as to what veggies are going to go onto the plate. So think about them first. If I'm looking at a recipe and getting some inspiration, I'll often add more vegetables than the recipe says. So if it calls for 1 carrot, I'll add 2 or 3, or if it calls for a handful of spinach, maybe I'll add 3 or 4. Always add more than what the recipe says, and you'll still get a delicious dish, okay? Also, eat the vegetables that you like. If you don't like zucchinis, don't dismiss that recipe entirely. Swap it for something else that you do like. So swap those zucchinis out for extra carrots or some mushrooms or beans, whatever's in season and whatever works for your taste buds. The other comment that I get as a dietitian about vegetables is that they're bland, okay, and don't enjoy them all that much. So flavour them. Use whole foods to flavour your vegetables. So really this slide and the few coming up are talking about aromats, herbs and spices. Whether they're fresh or dried or from a jar, it doesn't really matter. So things like garlic, ginger, lemon, chilli, and also your herbs and spices are a great way of, as Jamie Oliver might say, pimping up your food, injecting some flavour into it if you find it a bit bland. And again, use the combinations of flavours that you enjoy, okay? And with things like garlic, there are times midweek I don't want to spend time breaking apart the bulb of garlic, peeling all the cloves. You know, it's a timely process. So I always have a jar of minced garlic in my fridge and ginger as well, so that really quickly and easily take a scoop, put it in a dish, and it just adds that extra level of flavour. Also our herbs, whether they're fresh or dried, herbs can be a great way to incorporate flavour within a dish or at the end as well for a bit of colour and a bit of interest. So Italian herbs work beautifully, things like oregano, thyme, basil or rosemary. For seafood and fish dishes, try adding things like chives and dill and parsley. Or for your more Asian-based dishes, flavouring with them with some mint, basil and the ever-controversial coriander. Personally, I'm a coriander lover, so I will add it in quite large amounts, much to my sister's disgust sometimes. She's a hater. And also, sometimes that holiday seems too far away. I take myself on a trip when I cook food, trying different spice combinations from flavours all around the world. So whether it's a Moroccan style dish or Indian curry or a Middle Eastern style dish or even Mexican, we can use spices. They're quite cost effective, have a really long shelf life to add more flavour to the dish that we're creating. And it packs a punch. So those vegetables that we might think of as bland start to become a little bit more interesting. So the second component of building a healthy meal is to include some lean protein. So the lean part means some lower fat options or trimming the fat off some of those cuts of meat, but getting a variety as well. It's not just thinking about the chicken, beef and pork, for example, that's available, but maybe trialling some turkey mince or, you know, use lamb and pork, and kangaroo is a very lean cut of meat, and also seafood. And part of the meal planning concept means that you can see the variety of meats that you're getting into your diet as well. So that'll make a bit more sense in a minute. But also not just our meats and our animal proteins, but also think about your non-animal sources as well. So your protein alternatives, and that's something that any vegetarians and vegans in the room will certainly be aware of. But it's using things like our eggs, nuts and seeds for some fibre. Even dairy is a great high protein meat alternative. So marinating some meat in some Greek yogurt and some spices makes a delicious dish. Using ricotta and also legumes as well. So things like our chickpeas and cannellini beans, lentils, kidney beans, they can also bulk up what might be an otherwise expensive cut of meat. Or when we encourage people to try a meatless Monday, you can use some of those options as well. Okay. So the third and final component is to include something starchy, preferably whole grain. So that might be, you know, some rice or pasta. Other grains that are available these days are things like quinoa, freekeh. There's a whole range of quite unprocessed grains that you can find in your supermarket, and you can swap those for a bit more variety. If you're a bit sick of rice or a bit sick of pasta, you can swap those in and out. They cook very similarly, things like couscous as well. Also think about using your legumes here as well for something that's quite unprocessed and something starchy. And also our starchy vegetables, so that might be your potato, sweet potato, corn. So So it might be including some of these in a salad, so a roasted vegetable salad with some quinoa through it, some spinach, some nuts and seeds, and a tin of tuna can make a really delicious and nutritious dish. So how this all might come together, these are just a few of the options and certainly not the extent of what you can do, but what you can see quite clearly is that vegetables are a feature, nice and colourful dishes. We can still have our spaghetti bolognese, but add some vegetables, whether it's a salad or vegetables within the sauce, your stir fry, your fish and salad with some legumes, and even your typical meat and 3 veg. And we've got a few sesame seeds scattered on those carrots to make them a little bit more interesting. So really building a healthy meal forms the basis of building and creating a healthy eating plan. And it can be hard sometimes to get some inspiration as to know what's a healthy meal or not, but really I use those 3 key points to determine if a recipe is a healthy one, or can I make it healthier by adding more vegetables to it. But if that is an area that you'd like a bit more help and assistance with, or some inspiration, certainly a dietitian can help with recipe modification. Being quite upfront to say that's what I want to focus my appointment on, is how can I adjust some of my favourite recipes to make them healthier. Or also looking at recipe books and cookbooks and magazines and websites. Not every recipe out there is ideal, but we can tweak it and modify it to make it healthier. So at Diabetes SA, we have lots of recipe cards, recipes on our website and in our Living magazine as well. So there's some ideas there. But there's some other magazines and websites that can be quite useful. There's one called the Australian Healthy Food Guide. That's this little A5 magazine available at the supermarket, and that's put together by dietitians, and there's a website associated with that as well. So that's a great place to go, but really get inspiration and ideas from anywhere that you can. Friends and family are also a great source of inspiration. If there are friends or family you have who you think they cook well, or that you always enjoy the food when you go over to their house and it seems healthy, maybe talking to them and asking them for some advice. So how to do it, how to put this information and create a healthy eating plan. Essentially, all I encourage you to do at this point is document it somewhere, record it. So sometimes I'll put together a list of some of my healthy meal ideas, what are my favourite recipes, have that as a list, and then from here I can put together a meal plan. And it's really having it documented rather than just having it in our heads. That 5 p.m. panic, everything tends to go out of the window, whereas if we can download some of that information out of our brain onto some paper, into an app, into whatever form of record works for you, then that's going to free your mind up for other things. So on your chairs today, in amongst the evaluation forms, there was a meal planner template handed out as well, and there were some on the Diabetes SA table as well. And this is just one of many templates that are available to help you put together your own meal plan. We've got all meal options, so breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks if you have them, or if you don't, they're optional, so you don't have to fill every part in. And we've got all days of the week here. So this is one template. There's others available that you can purchase at stationery shops, or places like Kmart and Target have tear-off pads similar to these, and also apps. So for people who are a bit more technology savvy, and there are many apps out there compatible with all different types of devices. I won't go into the specifics of different apps today, but depending on the device that you have, do a search where you purchase your apps. Some are free, some are a fee, but some will have a database of recipes that you can select a recipe, put it into your meal plan, and then it will add it to a shopping list for you. So it's doing nearly three of those steps for you. Others might just have a recipe database or the meal planning database. The other thing is just to have it somewhere that is accessible. either on the fridge, on your phone, keeping it somewhere you can refer to it so you know what is for dinner that day or what's for lunch the next day. For me personally, I prefer to write it down. So I do fill in a template or write a list when I'm doing my meal planning, and this is one I've put together. So from here, I can see all the variety that I've got throughout the course of a week, okay? And I have filled in the whole week. Some people might find that, okay, breakfast is the troublesome area where you struggle the most. Maybe just start with breakfast. For me, it tends to be dinner, so I tend to always focus on my dinner meals more than any other. But what you might be able to see is some of these meals are quite easy and quick to prepare. So I think about that. When I'm doing my meal planning, I might sit down for about half an hour on a Sunday afternoon. It takes time and effort, but it's worth it. Short-term pain for long-term gain. So I sit down, I work out what's in my fridge, what's in my freezer, what's in my pantry. Some freezer meals tend to feature, so my minestrone soup for a Friday night from the freezer. I haven't had to do any cooking, I've just got to heat it up. I did the cooking a few weeks ago when I did a big batch of soup. Something like my tuna rice salad, literally a tin of tuna, a sachet of microwave rice and a bag of salad, some tomato and cucumber. Really quick and easy to prepare because Monday nights for me, I don't have the time with after work commitments to be slaving away in the kitchen preparing a roast chicken dinner, okay? So by having kind of that overall plan, I can quite quickly see what days am I busy, what days do I need a quick meal, where can I use leftovers. So Tuesday we had green chicken pasta, it's just lots of green vegetables with chicken and pasta, and I had that for lunch for at work the next day. So I allocate leftovers as well where I can. And also going out, was going to Sven and Amelia's on Saturday night, so I've allocated that in. I don't need to prepare a meal for that, okay? So again, as I said earlier, start where is probably the most troublesome area for you. For some people that might be at breakfast time and getting some inspiration and how do I change up? I like toast for breakfast, but I want to do something different. How can I get inspired? Use that thought of whole foods to top your toast. So I do like my toast for breakfast in the morning, and with my meal planning, I can aim to get a bit of variety on my toast. So whether that's using ricotta and cream cheese with some fruit, eggs and avocado or some other vegetables might be more of a weekend option. We've got cheese and tomato, that's a nice quick one for me, or even something like hummus with dukkha, so a bit of a spice nut seed mix as well can make a delicious toast topping as well. For those that are more of a cereal mind, choose your cereal, choose the one that you like. I've just got oats up here today. I think during winter we're often cooking porridge or oats or muesli, topping it with some whole foods, whether it's some fresh or tinned fruit, and also using things like our nuts and seeds and spices as well. So cinnamon with banana and porridge sounds pretty delicious. You might add some ground ginger or other spices that you enjoy as well. Sometimes, despite our best efforts to plan our meals, we might simply forget our lunch. And this is me probably once a fortnight or once a week, depending on the week I'm having, I'll often forget my lunch. So even though I know I've got a delicious green chicken pasta left over in the fridge, I've simply forgotten to take it. And this is something that I think is really important, is we're not going to get it right 100% of the time. So have some fallback options. Have some quick, easy options that you can go to that are still quite healthy and satisfying for you. For me, these are some of my go-to lunch options. So using some of the more pantry staples, I might have some tins of tuna in my desk drawer, some grainy crackers, some nuts and seeds, things that don't need a fridge. They can sit in my drawer as a bit of a backup. But then I'm lucky we've got a supermarket across the road from us at work. I can duck across and get some fresh ingredients like a fresh bag of salad or some yogurt and a piece of fruit or a dip, and pick up a carrot, pick up a cucumber and make myself a little nibble dip plate for lunch. It's really quick and easy and quite satisfying as well. It might be the sandwich and salad bar down the road or the Vietnamese shop around the corner. But if you've got a couple of fallback options, when you do forget your lunch or it's just been one of those days, you've got a healthy option to fall back on. And then when you're planning your dinners as well, there's a few tips and tricks that I consider as well. So certainly bulk cooking, getting a bit more bang for your buck. So if I'm making a chili con carne or spaghetti bolognese or a curry or soup, stew, making a bigger batch and putting some in the freezer for later so that on a Friday night when I don't want to cook, I can allocate a freezer meal for that purpose. And also cooking a bit extra on certain nights to get leftovers for lunch the next day. I'm a big believer in leftovers, and it really helps take some of the pressure off me to think of what am I going to have for lunch today. I've cooked some, maybe some pork and veggies for dinner last night, cook a little bit extra and I can put that in a container for lunch the next day. And also some easy meals that you can put together with your eyes closed. So for me, a fallback or an easy meal is what I call brinner, breakfast for dinner. It might be scrambled or poached eggs on toast with some vegetables or an omelette. Even baked beans on toast can make a really quick, easy dinner for those days that I'm sure we all have and you just simply do not want to cook. Okay, you get home and despite your meal plan, you've got something else planned, you just want something really easy. Also think about the skill set that you have. Do you want to learn more skills in the kitchen? There's definitely cooking shows and YouTube videos out there to help you expand the skill set that you have, but don't set yourself up to do something really complicated that requires a lot of effort on a day where you know you're going to be pretty time poor. Okay, and again, think about those busy days that we all have, that you get home. I love food, I love cooking, but I still have days where I just do not want to think about it. So allocate some meals that are really easy to prepare. And this is another way that you can think about your meal planning. It doesn't have to be the whole week, every single meal. This is what I would call more of a power plan. So as I said earlier, we might all have one meal that's a bit of a tricky area. It's the hardest meal we find to have a healthy option. For me, that's dinner. So the more, if I can sometimes just nut out a quick power plan of what I'm having for dinner for the next week or the next fortnight, takes a whole lot of load off my mind and I can actually think about things that are probably a little bit more important. So it's a simple list on a notepad, nothing fancy. I can see the variation. I can see that I'm getting a variety of different proteins and meats and grains and vegetables, and I'll allocate eating out. Ultimately, there's no right or wrong way. Okay, these are just some tips and tricks that will hopefully get you a bit started to planning your own meals. It will take time and effort. I said that earlier. It will take some brain power. It doesn't, even for me, and I'm talking about food nearly all day, every day, and I love it, it still takes a bit of time and effort to look in my pantry, look in my fridge, look in my freezer, put together, okay, what's in my head, write it down, make a meal plan. Then, once I've done that, I get to go shopping, and that in itself can instill fear, I think, in people's minds about negotiating supermarket car parks and the like. But we can then put this into creating our shopping list, okay? So we've got our healthy meals, we've put them into a plan. Now it makes writing a shopping list so much easier. And I would certainly encourage you, even if you don't plan your meals, even just to start by writing a shopping list, it makes shopping so much easier, okay? I find it helps with budgeting. So the amount of food that I spend, the amount of money I spend on food tends to be a lot less when I've done my meal planning and I've written my shopping list, as opposed to just aimlessly wandering the aisles sometimes. It helps cut down on food waste as well, which I think is a emerging area that people are becoming more and more passionate about. I know I only need to buy 4 zucchinis and not just guess and get 6, and then I've got 2 soggy zucchinis in my crisper for the next week. It really helps cut down on food waste. And also those midweek runs to the supermarket on my way home from work, I can drive straight home because I know that what I need is at home, ready for me to prepare and cook, and I don't have to stop off at the supermarket on the way home. And the shopping itself is so much quicker and easier. You've got a planned approach to what you're going to buy. You know what aisles you need to go down, you know how much of each item you're going to get. So it's much easier and quicker. Hands up if this is you. Because it's certainly me. As much as I love to write things down, I do often forget my shopping list. But what I would say is that it bothers me less and less. The more I meal plan and the more of a bank of healthy meal items I have, the less bothered I am by forgetting my shopping list. Because what I notice is that the more consistent my shopping list is. So there are some items that are every week, without fail, on my shopping list. Milk, eggs, bread, yogurt, vegetables, fruit, some meat of some sort. Maybe a few pantry staples here and there, but there are some really consistent items that at the very worst I know I can get those and I can probably make do with those for a little while, okay? So on the back of that meal planning template was the shopping list template as well. Again, one of many options that are available. This is how I've filled it out according to that meal plan that I put up earlier. What I like about this is how categorised it is according to certain sections of the supermarket and also according to some of those key messages that we spoke about earlier. Vegetables, protein and grains as well. For those who still do their shopping at, you know, the local fruit and veg, that's great. I do that and I put all my fruit and veg items in that box. So when I go to my local fruit and veg, I know exactly what I need to get from there. Or if you go to your local butcher as well, you can put down all the items that you need in those categories. And this reflects pretty closely to what is how the supermarkets are laid out. They are all laid out fairly similarly, but they're changing a little bit. I think they're doing that to trick us. But what you'll notice is a lot of these foods are on the outside of the supermarket, okay? The other thing is that some weeks this shopping list is way longer and other weeks it's way shorter as well, just depending on what pantry staples generally I need to top up. But that's where doing that little bit of planning earlier in the week, on say the Sunday afternoon, checking what's in your fridge, checking what's in your pantry and in your freezer really helps. So you're not having, you know, half a dozen bags of almonds opened going all at the same time. And then it gets to the fun part, unpacking it and cooking it all. Hopefully there's someone else in the household who can help you with that and you're not going it alone. But then it's over to you. So it is a bit of a process. It can be challenging. There's still, even within those 3 key steps, there might be a few other steps within that. Try and simplify it as much as you can. And maybe just start at one point. If it's just building those healthy meals and recipe modifications, start there. Or if you kind of got that sorted and you want to start that more meal planning part, get into that, whatever is going to work for you. One final thought I wanted to leave you with today is that generally we all want something to change in relation to our life or in relation to our health particularly. But who wants to make that change? Sometimes it's really hard to make change, and it's not just about change relating to healthy eating, it's about all aspects of our health and our life. It can be hard. Change is uncomfortable. When you think about it, doing what you're currently doing, your normal behaviour, excuse me, your normal behaviour is familiar. It's comfortable. You can almost do it on autopilot. You don't have to think too hard about it. But to change that, you've got to use your brain. You've got to use conscious effort to make a change, okay? And it's doing something that's different to your normal. So how I think about change is we can all think of something that we want to change and make it our ideal behaviour, and that can be, you know, it might be at the other end of the room. It might just be quite close to us, a step away. But think about where you are in relation to that change and aim to take a step towards it, okay? So If currently you're wanting to eat more vegetables, guidelines say eat 5 serves of vegetables a day. You're currently eating 1 serve. It's going to be a pretty big change to go from 1 serve to 5 serves in 1 step. So break it down, take 1 step, add an extra serve a day and start there. I think we get quite attuned to the thought that practice makes perfect. Hope I'm not bursting anyone's bubble when I say that no one is perfect. So let's not aim for it. Let's aim for progress. Let's aim for an improvement rather than aiming for perfection, because all that does is mess with our heads, I think, because we get too caught up in aiming for perfection. So a few of the references that I've used for today, but thank you very much for letting me speak with you today around creating a healthy meal plan. I would like to open up if anyone does have any questions around building a healthy meal, creating a meal plan, or shopping as well. Happy to take any questions. Thank you.